To the, there we go. It's being recorded today, so keep that in mind as you are sharing throughout the meeting. This is a public meeting, therefore, be very conscious of maybe the things you may be sharing and to what extent. But we do say here at the Family Support Council, we want to make sure that we're respectful to everyone's information and their participation in our meeting. But welcome. My name is Rhonda White. I am the co-chair of the Family Support Council, as well as co-chairing with Craig Lee. So we are the two of our executive committee, as well as I believe Adrian Fairley is with us today as well, which is our vice chair. So we are glad to have the executive committee here, as well as some of our members of the Family Support Council. We are supported by Catherine Reinhardt Mello as well. She's part of our executive committee to provide us with administrative support. So we're glad for her hosting, in the sense, this meeting on today. Just a little bit about the Family Support Council. We are an advisory council made up of family members, self-advocates, and community members that are coming together to help to advise, assist, recommend to the Department on Disability Services and their sister agencies on person-centered and family-centered supports, and making sure that we give input on behalf of the community at large, just not limited to the members of the Family Support Council, but to provide that information and advice on how our family members and those District of Columbia residents with disabilities and their families would like to be supported to ensure that they can live their best lives. Also, I wanted to make sure those who are members, if you could please raise your hand, even though we have already established that we do have a quorum, but it's always nice to make sure we know who our members are and that we are all participating. Thank you, Shani. And I know there's Taiki, who has already let us know she's in transition. Adrian Azeb, nice to see you, Azeb. I'm glad that you were able to get on today. She's as well a member. And Daisy Brown and Linda Brown are color names. I'm in that club too. All right, we will proceed. Craig, did you want to, oh, wait a minute, Adrian, we will give you the floor as we are looking at our minutes. Adrian, if you could unmute, and you now have the microphone. Adrian, could you hear me? We might have to come back around if she's not hearing me right now. All right, we'll move on. And I'll swing back around to her when she's able to speak with us. As for our subcommittee work, I will start, Craig, and then I will give you the microphone, as mine will be somewhat short because one of the priorities for the Family Support Council is to make sure we are staying in touch with what's going on with Medicaid. And one of the major things that we were able to accomplish, not only in having conversation with the Department of Healthcare Finance throughout the year, really 2 years, but we will have them back at the table, so to speak, in October for our October meeting. I believe Melissa Bird will be accompanying us, as well as, I'm not sure, she may have some other staff members that might participate as well, but she is the director, Medicaid director, and at the DC Healthcare Finance. So she will be providing us with some updates on Medicaid, and as we look to the present and future, what it looks like here in DC as it pertains to Medicaid. And then I will proceed to give it to Craig as he talks about our efforts with the MPD, Metropolitan Police Department. That's our
Wonderful.
other priority.
Thank you. And
Mhm.
actually, before I talk about the MPD, and we're going to talk about the general order later, but I'll give you a little bit of update on our subcommittee. I did want to raise, I know we talked about this previously, but there were 2 points when we do have them come to talk about Medicaid that I wanted to make sure that they addressed. So I wanted Catherine to pass this along. One is one that we've talked about, which is the establishment of a Medicaid waiver wait list. So we did want to learn about that. I always thought it was wonderful that DC didn't have a wait list. So, I came from a jurisdiction that had a very, very long wait list, and that we never actually ended up getting off the wait list until we moved to DC, one of the great things about DC was that it didn't have a wait list, So I was sad to see that. So I'd like to learn more about it and what it means as part of the Medicaid discussion. Is it related to the fact of all the cuts that recently happened? Is it something else? And then two, this is something that recently came to my attention, and so it impacts my daughter, or at least it will impact my daughter. But then I learned it impacts a lot of people, and it's an area where the Medicaid that DC provides is not as good as Virginia or Maryland, at least in this one area. And so I wanted to raise it, and I want to learn more about what was the thinking behind this. But just so you know, so my daughter goes to St. Coletta. She's schooled there. She's going to be going to the adult program in the next couple of years. She's transitioning. And we were told, though, that DC has a rule, which I confirmed is true, that DC has a rule that you can only go 4 days a week instead of 5 to a program, so that we would have to split her between two programs, one 3 days and one 2 days, which in my opinion is not in her best interest. And my understanding was that rule is to try to help facilitate people working or something like that. But I feel like I would like to learn more about that. Why did they do that? Particularly for people with very significant intellectual disabilities who may not be able to work. It just seems like it harms them. So anyhow, I wanted to find out more about it. I don't want to prejudge it, at least in this role. Obviously, as a parent, I was disappointed to hear that, and we'll try to figure out a way around it. But as when I learned that this impacted a lot of different people, and like St. Coletta, they told me that from Virginia, they have people there 5 days a week, but DC, it has to be 4, and a lot of them come for 3 or 4. And I didn't know why we were treated worse. But then I learned it wasn't St. Coletta, it was the rule. And they told me that they would let us come 5 days if that was supported. So anyway, I just wanted to raise that so I didn't forget it on the Medicaid part. And then the second thing was on the police area. I'm very pleased to tell you that we got a lot of
How you doing? What you
that we're getting
some kind of
cooperation.
interview or something?
Could everyone go on mute, please? We're getting a lot of cooperation from the police department, and you're going to hear more about this today. But Maureen O'Connell from the Metropolitan Police Department, from the DC Police, sent over draft guidelines related, and we've been asking for this for a couple of years, that they start sending us their internal guidelines on how the police interact with people with disabilities, and they did. And this general order, which we're going to discuss a little bit later today, so please stay on for the whole meeting, because it's going to be the last item, because I'm sure it'll take some time to go through. And we definitely want to hear from DDS first. I know they're going to be presenting, but we're going to be taking comments and we're going to go over the general order that was sent to us. I'm going to give you some comments that I had as someone who's been a police legal advisor and has been involved in these sort of comments before, but we really want to get all your comments and any thoughts you may have after we go through it. And then we're going to give those comments over to the police department. And hopefully we're going to give them constructive comments, and hopefully they'll take them, and then hopefully they'll send us more things in the future so we have more of an involvement with police procedures. So with that, that's my committee report. Rhonda, thank you.
Thank you. One of the things that I wanted to make sure we want to make sure we do as the Family Support Council is that we were all saddened to hear that the loss of one of our Family Support Council members, Thomas Mangren. And those of us who are already work within the disability community may be already aware, but I definitely wanted to take the time to allow us to remember him. One of the things that I remember so much about him is that he was definitely a strong voice in our community. Here at the Family Support Council, he definitely helped us to remember our youth, and he always gave us great examples of what he experienced as a young person with a disability, and always wanting to make sure that we didn't forget about those children who are going through bullying and other aspects of being a youth, and especially a youth with a disability. And always making sure we remember family and how important family was to him, and how his interaction was with his family, and helping us to remember that the family is support, but to let that person be their own person. And I appreciated all of his work he's done over the years beyond Family Support Council. He was heavily involved with the Project Action as well. So he will be missed, and we're so grateful for what he has taught us as we continue to advocate for our loved ones and for the community at large. And I will definitely give everyone that would like to a moment to share their words concerning Thomas. So we'll definitely allow that time right now for anyone that would like to share anything. I'm sorry, did Doreen want to speak or not? Okay. All right. If you're going to speak, just raise your hand. You're Doreen, you're off mute. Am I to assume that?
Oh, okay. Sure, I'll go first. That was really a huge blow to the disabilities community, to hear about the passing of Thomas, as he likes to be called, but I always called him Lucius from the time I met him. The biggest thing that there's two big things that come to me about him is when I first had the opportunity to be introduced to him when I maybe a little bit prior, before my years of working at DDS. I would see him in the community and everything like that, and he always had those beads on, the Mardi Gras beads. And I asked him, "You ever been to New Orleans? Did you ever go to Mardi Gras?" He said, "No, but we can make a Mardi Gras here, like here in DC, like that." And I said, "Right." And at that point, I knew that he could do anything, like, as far as I was concerned. At that time, he was walking, and he was more mobile than in his wheelchair. The other big thing that made was huge to me was when there was a stop or a concern, that action that was coming forth for a DDS, that lunches were going to be stopped for all individuals that were attending day programs. And we staged a protest down at the Wilson building, where, shout out also to Muggy Doo. The passing of her too was quite a shock also too, from art and drama. But that's like two big people that really made a huge impact for us in the disabilities community, especially for the Black, Brown, and Beige community. But in any event, Lucius and Muggy Doo and the art and drama members came down to the Wilson building, and they had, again, I tell that same story, that those Wismos hats and everything, And Lucius came with the sign and everything like that. And everybody walked in front of the Wilson building and then came in with their signs and their hats and everything to really show true and uniform advocacy about what was impacting the disabilities community. And that's that's something, that is definitely noted and always is a huge impact in getting your point across. Nothing without us, nothing about us without us. And I'm gonna definitely go pick me up some beads to attend his service and continue to wear those deeply and close to my heart. And missing him and then his memorial from me and Titus of him. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Yes, we have to remember the hats and the beads. He came out with his fashion. All right. If there's no other words at this time, we have not received any.
I
of
wanted to
the-
say something about.
Okay, excuse me, I didn't see you. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, look at him.
Mhm.
Gosh, I feel the tears like welling up.
Mhm.
Can you take the picture down, please? I'm just an emotional person, so sorry.
No apology necessary.
I just wanted to say that one of the most important times that I met Thomas, Doreen got me emotional. One of the most important times I met Thomas was like I was struggling. It was like early in my mothering advocacy journey. He was just talking about his mother who had passed. He really loved his mother and all the things that she did for him. So and he didn't know that, but he was helping me shape what my mothering would look like. Sorry, I'm sorry. Like it just started when Doreen was talking. But yeah, he'll be deeply missed and I'm gonna stop talking.
Well, we all know that he had an effect on many of us, and we're so thankful for him and his him being himself and him being the advocate that he was for the disability community. Again, we have not received any details yet, but we will be sure to share them when we receive them. But thank you all for your words and thoughts. And yes, that's so true, Catherine. He was a caregiver as well to his parents. And so he had many hats, many roles. And we are thankful for that. All right, well, we will swing back around to Adrian. If you could provide some presentation of the minutes, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, so it's uh, really compressed. It's already, you guys have it. So we covered a lot of ground in August, and there are tons of notes. I think we did a lot with the ground covering. I believe that we did a really good job with the input from all of those who were on the call. It was great, and it was really great to have opportunity to pull the minutes together. So I do believe. Let me just go back a little bit. I know that there was input for both of our co-chairs, Rhonda and Craig, opened the meeting. Craig did the initial motion and Rhonda seconded. And then we moved on to Crystal and Shawnee. And we had just a plethora of folks that were giving input regarding the agenda for last month. And that agenda included all the members present, minutes, as well as local. This is from August, local and national updates, subcommittee updates, DDS recommendations, and the meeting schedule. And then we had the adjourn. It's all encapsulated. We've had opportunity to really tweak a lot of the minutes. So I'm hoping that folks will take opportunity to go through those minutes, because much of this information, in as much as some of it is getting archived as we move forward, a lot of the information is very relevant, and one link will lead us into the next link. So a lot of what was discussed last month in August during our Family Support Council meeting is going to support today's meeting as well. So I'm just encouraging everyone to take some time out, look at the minutes, go through them, and anything that you may want to add that came from last month's meeting into this one would be huge. And so just want to say thank you to everybody for taking the time out to read them. Okay.
Thank you, Adrian. And if you have any questions, please feel free to share those questions with Adrian or any of us on the executive committee. Thank you so much, Adrian. I appreciate it.
Yes. Oh, really quickly, Rhonda. So just going forward, I do take handwritten notes as well before anything happens. So there are 2 sets of notes, and usually we're embellishing them as we go. So please feel free, to as you're making comments, I'm writing everything down. So sometimes if you need to slow down a bit, it's helpful. So just want to say thank you to that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Adrian. And we do need to keep that in mind from accessibility point of view as well. Not just for you trying to take the notes, which we appreciate, but for those who may need us to slow down in our speech so that everyone can hear us and understand what we're saying. So now as we move on to the agenda, we will proceed with the press up. It looks like Doreen has her hand up, if I'm seeing correctly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rhonda, could you repeat the roles of everybody on the committee of the council?
Sure. We have 2 co-chairs who are the leaders in the sense of providing leadership of the council. We both have Craig, Lean, and myself both have what you would probably say the final say of how we move forward. Obviously, we do have a council in which we do vote, which we have 11 members on the council, and we will proceed in voting on making decisions for sure. And then we have the vice chair, which is who you heard from moments ago, Adrian.
Yep, I'm sorry. I'm having these issues still with freezing and not freezing, so
Okay,
I'm
no,
back for a few minutes, but
no
thank
problem.
you.
I'm just sharing your
Yes.
position. Not only does she provide the notes, but she does do maintenance of the attendance of the members. She also steps in when maybe we're not available, being the co-chairs, and it supports in that way. That's a general synopsis of what we all do. Obviously, we do, as for the co-chairs, we do lead subcommittees. At least in this year, we are leading subcommittees. We have, we still give others opportunities to lead the subcommittees. And that's another role in which the co-chairs have of making sure there's progress with those subcommittees and finalizing the recommendations, not making the recommendation, but finalizing what is agreed on for recommendations for DDS and the sister agencies. So hopefully that gives you a little background of our roles. Doreen, did you have any other questions? Or anyone else for that matter?
No, Rhonda, I don't have any other questions. Thank you for I didn't hear it in the beginning, but that's why I asked for it to be repeated. I'm sorry.
All right, no problem. Yeah, we didn't provide definitions of the roles at the beginning, just a summary of what the purpose and mission of the Family Support Council is. So thank you for that question. Okay, we do have our Department on Disability Services here today, and I will hand the mic over to our presenters today from DDS, and thank you for taking the time to present to the Family Support Council. Jacqueline, I think it is.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you for having myself and my colleague Alice, who will join me in the presentation a little bit farther. Let me go ahead and share my screen. It's making me request.
You should be able to share now.
Okay. Is it in presentation mode here?
It's there.
Nope. Not in presentation mode.
Okay.
You're good.
Maybe I'll put it in presentation mode.
When you present, there was a button on the lower right and it looks like a screen. It'll make it bigger.
After I share?
Yeah, after you share or before you share.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
So you had it, you did switch it and then took it down. So you did get there, if that helps. You did switch it to presentation mode a few minutes ago,
You had
or a minute ago.
Oh, so I did get, oh, the switch helped. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
So just do
okay.
that again.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's do it again.
Mhm.
How about that?
That's it.
If you click that button next to the minus
Oh,
sign,
there you go. You got it.
Okay. Maybe mine goes quicker than your guys. Okay. Apologies, everyone. Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Ting. I'm a program specialist, human rights, in the quality improvement unit. I'm here with my colleague Alice. If you want to introduce yourself.
Good morning, good afternoon. This is Alice. I'm a program support assistant at the Quality Improvement Unit.
Okay.
Today we're going to be going over a brief overview of the customer service channels, emails, and calls, and a brief overview of that. And then we'll go over anonymous complaints as well as formal complaints and the processes for that. So here at DDS, we have our customer service email and phone, and it's open for people who are supported by DDS, general populations, providers, and most of our inquiries are from people who are already receiving support. They might be inquiring on the status of their case, trying to get in contact with their service coordinators, looking for the next steps and trying to get into the right place. And other issues, other communications we receive are from people who are looking for getting into DDS services, looking for VR, RSA, how they can apply. So our goal is to get persons seeking support or persons already receiving support into the right place. Another set of inquiries we receive are from the provider side, providers who are looking into their status, how they can remain an active provider to DDS, or providers who are also seeking to become a provider. So we connect them with our provider relations unit and get them onto the right steps that they need to take to become a provider. And then sometimes we get inquiries unrelated to DDS. Maybe it's the federal level, people looking for disability related resources on the federal level or from another state, but we always try to make sure that anybody who comes through, we get them to the right place. We have a system for any inquiries related to DDS providers and DDS persons supported. Any inquiries that come through related to providers and persons supported go through a system called Internet Quorum System, or the IQ. This ensures that there's transparency in the inquiry process, and that anybody with an inquiry, they know that the inquiry is being tracked and resolved. This also helps us go back into our records to maybe a year or a month from now, someone who inquires is checking in, or maybe they forgot information, we can go back into that IQ system and give them the information that we have. If an inquiry is related to VR or maybe RSA, outreach, it becomes assigned to that respective supervisor. So an IQ is entered, we assign it to a VR counselor, a VR supervisor, an RSA supervisor, etc. And then the supervisor then will acquire it, follow up with the person directly, track every step to close out the case. And this is how we make sure from start to finish that persons that reach out to us are taken care of. Here you can see various types of inquiries that we receive in a fiscal year. The first is fiscal year 24, which was last year, and we just are actually finishing up fiscal year 25. So, right, yes. A lot of our inquiries are feedback about their provider services. Maybe they're having a hard time in their home, maybe they're not happy with their provider. And then it goes along down to DDS communication. Maybe they called several times to get a hold of their service coordinator, can't get in touch. Feedback, a lot of direct requests, changing my service coordinator, again, how to seek services and so forth.
Could you go back to that chart? Thank you. So just so we understand, so these are basically similar to customer service type calls in different ways. And the real formal complaints, there were only 7 in 2024 and 11 so far in 2025.
Right.
Or I guess fiscal year 2025 just ended. Did it end?
Right.
Okay. So, or no, it's right at the
Not
end.
yet.
Right at the end.
The September 3rd.
Not yet.
Yeah, it's right at the end. So we've had 11 this year. I see. That's it. That's the total amount of complaints that you've received?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh,
Huh.
No,
And
this is the formal
Shine.
complaint. It's different than the customer service receiving complaint through the email or the phone. So the formal complaint, you have to apply through our website, and it's another process. So this is why you don't see as much as and we coming during the presentation, we're going to explain to you what are the conditions to for a formal complaint, because it's not all complaints that are considered as a formal complaint.
Okay.
Additionally, before it
Thank you.
gets to a formal complaint, sometimes we do receive inquiries that resolve an issue or even like a major concern before it reaches the formal complaint stage. But right.
I'm sorry,
We're
Jacqueline,
happy
could
to
you
take any-
repeat that again? You're saying if someone calls, if I'm understanding what you just said, is that if someone calls in and says, you know, they're having an issue with their service coordinator, getting in contact with them, it's addressed here, but not placed as knowing the difference between just calling and getting help to, you know, get in contact with the service coordinator compared to a formal complaint. Because the way it's listed here, right, it appears that is separate, right, from the formal complaint process. Am I
Right.
understanding right, Jacqueline? Okay.
Yes.
So if they were to ask, someone was to ask, you know, how many complaints are coming through DDS, that would be you'd have to say the informal ones are coming through the phone line, and you guys are resolving them, and then the other formal complaints is a different number. Is that, if I'm understanding the way this is set up, is that correct?
Can I have, I'm sorry. Yes, so we have a total of complaints is 100, I mean, for FY24, we have 153 on the total because we divide them into concerning depending on the concern. That's why we have this table because we have formal complaint, we have requests for a new service coordinator, we have inquiry about DDS, we have feedback about payment, we have inquiries, different kind of inquiries, but the total number of complaints is 153 for FY24. And for FY25, we haven't finished yet, but the total right now is 111.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Also, somewhat, you're sound a little muffled a little bit. So it's
I'm
a little
sorry.
hard to hear you just a little bit, just to let you know. In the meantime, Shawnee's had her hand up, and I do understand that you all will be talking about the formal complaint process momentarily. Shawnee, I know you've had your hand up for a minute.
Yeah, I just have a question. So this chart is actually a combination of inquiries, concerns, and complaints combined, correct?
Yes.
And this is only for the internet. That means that this mode was the internet that was used, correct?
Say again, I didn't really.
But we do the IQs. Yes, you're right. All of these have been.
And then, okay. And then there's one question. So I see the word process. Does that mean that there are inquiries, complaints, and concerns that have possibly not been processed?
No, all complaints have been processed. All complaints received, all complaints have been processed. So we have complaints that are regarding we put all complaints in the IQ. So all complaints have been processed, and we have complaints, for example, that is coming as a formal complaint, and we have informal administrative review meeting. That's another kind of complaint with the Rehabilitation Service Administration. So all complaints received are always, even if it's not related to DDS, we try to really find a way to direct the person to sources. So we always, all complaints are always processed.
No, process doesn't mean answered.
Okay, I just have one more question. If a consumer who's currently receiving services, if they made a complaint and it wasn't processed, should they then go back and use the same internet process to make a complaint about the original complaint not being processed?
Okay, if you are not satisfied with the way your complaint has been processed, yes, you can always send an email. We have, actually, she is going to show to you the next slide, and there's a way to, can you go to the next slide?
Oh, yes. The next is going to be, before we move forward, does anybody have any other questions, or maybe we can hold to the end?
No, and we do want to go to the end. One thing I know we're going to want to talk about is that does seem like, considering we hear a lot of complaints when we have these meetings, 7 and 11 does seem low, and it makes me wonder whether people know how to make a formal complaint.
Right. Yes, we understand, which is why we have this to ensure that people can go through different channels, either anonymously or the formal complaint process. But it's definitely something in consideration where we want to make sure everyone is aware of how to make.
And one other thing, I know I do a lot of work with agencies. I know that some people, even putting aside, the concerns about retaliation or things like that, a lot of people don't like to make formal complaints. They prefer to make informal complaints that don't require them to swear something under oath or something like that. So, if there was a way, I don't see anything here about informal complaints, but I think that's something we're going to want to discuss a little later.
Alice, do you want to expand on the informal complaint where if someone reaches out, but they don't want to go through the formal complaint, but maybe an informal?
Okay, I would have to explain about the formal complaint. The formal complaint is only for inquiries that are related to DDA services, and they are about grievance on the process. And we have like about three conditions for formal complaint. So the formal complaint is really for DDA. It concerns when we have a denial and delay, reduction, and termination of DDA support services, for example. Also, if you're not satisfied with the resolution, you can also file a resolution about DDA policy. You can file for a formal complaint. And so we have conditions for formal complaints. Informal complaints are all the complaints that we're receiving on a day-to-day basis. And we make sure that with the IQ system, when we receive a complaint, we put all the information in the IQ system and we assign it to a supervisor, and we follow up with the supervisor to make sure that the person receives a response within at least 24 hours, and everything is documented, and we make sure that there is a resolution before closing the IQ. So this is all informal complaints that we've been receiving, and there is no special condition for those complaints. Anything related to all the condition if you're not satisfied, but mostly we take complaint about with the people that we serve. Whatever is, yeah. And you can also complain about even the staff. If you're not satisfied with something, communication, we take all these complaints. Yeah, we try to resolve all these complaints.
And a suggestion for the sake of time, if we could we hold questions? What do you guys think, co-chairs, about holding questions to the end? Because a lot might be answered along the way, talking about what the system looks like. So that is just a suggestion.
Yeah, we can hold them. And if you please use the chat to also put your questions in as well, that would be beneficial as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So this, Alice just reviewed the formal complaint and why and what is used for. Primary, it's for DDS persons supported and anything that is impacting them. Now, a person can file a formal complaint on behalf of the person supported, but it's very important that it's clear that the person has granted consent that someone files a formal complaint on behalf of them. I'm going to go back and to the anonymous complaints, because it's common that people may not want to go through the formal complaint route, or maybe they are fearful of retaliation, and which is why we have an anonymous way to report concern. And it's a very important tool because anonymous reporting allows people to raise issues without identifying themselves, protects them from retaliation, and makes it easier to report small things to more serious concerns. The benefits are creating a safer and more transparent environment, but it's very important to understand when you make an anonymous concern or complaint that you include a lot of detail, because if you are using an anonymous phone call, maybe we may not be able to call you back. On the next slide, a few points down, it's very important that you are very clear and that you want to remain anonymous. So some people make a dummy email under an anonymous name, or they call on a blocked call. So with that, we want every detail, any names involved, addresses, maybe any documentation you have, photos, receipts. So that way, when we get that first point of contact from you, if we need to reach back out, but we can't, we can work with what we have. Another point is that if you make an anonymous complaint or concern, or a formal complaint or concern, if it involves any type of abuse, neglect, exploitation, we are obligated and required to report to the Incident Management Enforcement Unit. So if you do have an anonymous report, it will go to the IMEU unit for a full further investigation. It's very important to know that you cannot be treated unfairly or badly for filing a complaint, whether in any channels, informal, formal, or anonymous. Sometimes formal complaints are filed in other agencies and other offices. And then when they are received by those agencies, we are not able to handle the complaints if they are filed elsewhere, and we won't be able to resolve it. I want to go back. So here's, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around because we just skipped to the formal complaints, but again, I'll take questions in the comments or after. But here's how you can file a formal complaint. You can write to us, DDA Formal Complaint System, 250 East Street Southwest, Washington, D.C., 224, by phone, by email, dds.complaints@dc.gov. And then we have the formal complaint form. I'm certain that this PowerPoint will be shared after, so you'll have all the information that you need.
Yep, it'll be posted with the meeting notes.
Okay, great. And then here's same information, but on our webpage, so you can read in full the formal complaint system. And then we added it on here, but the provider formal complaint process. So our formal complaints are strictly related to persons supported by DDS or receiving supports. And then the provider side, which we don't oversee, we don't take complaints between like an employee of a provider and then the employer. So we include that just in case we have a provider who's trying to understand how they can complain about something going on with their employee. And then here we have Alice and I's supervisor information. I forgot to add Alice's and I, but if you want to directly call Jose or get in touch with another member of the Quality Improvement Unit. So if there's any questions, Alice and I are happy to take them.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline and Alice. There's a few questions there in the chat, and I know you answered about where it said, where do families find out about the complaint process, as well as is that information shared at intake, the complaint process? And I know you shared that the website is, you can go to the website to find out about the complaint process. But where do they, in the intake process, where does the person and their support team in the intake process, is there somewhere in that process that's shared in the intake process that you're aware of, Jacqueline?
Alice, I'm sorry,
Okay.
barely
Alice, yes, you are, Alice.
Yes. So the question was about in the intake process. Is there a way to file a complaint? Is it the question?
No, the question is the question is, how does someone find out about the complaint process? And Jacqueline shared the website, but the other question that was in the chat was, okay, is this explained in the intake process when someone is coming in, applied for DDA, and is going through, is somewhere in the process for intake, is this complaint process explained in between the informal and the formal and the all these different types of ways to make complaints? Is this all explained somewhere in the intake process?
This is really a good question. Unfortunately, we don't have somebody from intake in the right here, but I think that is a good point to underline and to maybe add to our process. I cannot really respond in for intake because intake is in the office, is a part of the RSA and DDA process. They have their way to really but I'm not sure if really they give that information at this. The best way is to send the email to dds@dc.gov. If you need any information, we will provide you. And this email come to us and Quality Improvement Unit. So this is the best way to get all the information that you need about complaints.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And I'm sorry, Rhonda. Forgive me for just jumping in. I don't use Zoom a lot, and I don't know how to raise my hand. I was trying to figure it out.
Okay,
Well,
we'll accept
I
it.
feel the same way. This is Daisy. Okay.
Okay, and so Catherine put it in the chat, but it's a very good question. But what happens in intake is you have to understand those are people we don't even know whether they're eligible yet. So they don't get all of the formal complaint process information because we don't know whether they would actually even be eligible for appeals or any other. They can appeal the eligibility decision, which is given in the Bill of Rights. And I think all of those kind of processes are handed out in a packet format, and they may not be formally explained in detail, but they may not be useful for someone at intake. And I like to just say many of the people who come through intake actually don't even finish the application process because oftentimes their needs are met through resources shared with them, and they don't even finish applying because they get what it is that they need or they're not eligible. And so the Bill of Rights gives you your ability to appeal, but in terms of complaining about something, the question would be if they're complaining about the way they were treated prior to even applying, that's not a DDS intake policy process. That's a district government customer service process. All agencies have the ability, if you're complaining about the agency, you can go online, you can ask the director, or you can lodge a District of Columbia complaint. Our customer service policies are very general, but our formal complaint process is more detailed. So it's a good question, but I don't know the use of giving someone the formal complaint, informal complaint process before they even have finished the
Right.
application process. And that's basically intake is to tell you what we do, help you get your application through. And then actually, I think Michelle, who works in their unit, probably could give more light to this. And I see her name just popped up on
Right.
the screen.
Yeah, but what you said though, I hear you. Intake is, trying to get in, applying and all of that. But once you become eligible, where is it in that process, right? That when you're trying to find out what type of waiver and all of those things, is that explained there? Once they get to your service coordinator, basically, Linda. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Let's look at it that way.
All of that is reviewed initial transfer from eligibility to continuing services, as well as reviewed annually in the ISP process. And I wish I had one of my DDA service planning team on, but we created a system that acknowledges several things that that you can vote, that that you're eligible for, about incident management, about complaints. We have evidence that we go over these things with people, and it's using a checklist form. And sometimes people, because they don't need it, they don't really kind of realize they actually checked that it was explained to them sometimes. And I hear you. I think the bigger question is, do people know what to do when they need it? Not so much whether it's been shared with them. And we'd like to think in real time, if anyone ever has a problem, as Alice said, that they pick up the phone. The gateway to get your problem solved is that first phone call, right? But it's a very good question.
Yeah. I think the other part of it is too, is that when they get to the service coordinator, there's a lot of things they have to explain, or the expectation is that there's a lot of things to explain because it's all new, right?
Right.
So even this complaint process today, we found out that there's different types, right? There's different words that have been used: complaint, concern, informal, formal, you know what I'm saying? Understanding where all that fits and how it works to be able to adequately use the system to file a complaint once you're eligible. And to your point, Winslow, there's a different process if maybe you're having the issue when you're just trying to apply, right? So even that being, explained, you know what I'm saying, is important to everyone that's hopefully taking the complaint and resolving the complaint, and more importantly, the person who is filing it to know what steps to take, if that helps to wrap up what you said. And we're probably as a whole Family Support Council is thinking, okay, and which is, thank you, Jacqueline and Alice, that you're here, because that's why we invited you all, because we are getting complaints, right? And trying to understand how the system works to direct people the correct way, and then give those recommendations for that. I am going to start with Chioma, because Chioma had her hand up a long time ago, and then Shawnee.
I just wanted to say one
Sure.
last thing relative to the complaint process, and I promised myself that I wasn't going to jump in too early, because this is not my meeting. But when you guys were reviewing the numbers of that come in through the IQ system, what I need to, I feel the need to just say, when you see 153 and you have 111, as we review this data monthly in our internal performance meetings, and we also share this at our city council hearing meetings, what we don't share is that 153 or that 111 might be 20 people, not that each of those complaints is a person. As much as some people complain, and if they don't get the answer that they feel is satisfactory to what they want, they complain again, and or it's a modified version, because sometimes it's like a rabbit hole. When you start complaining about one thing, you may feel like you weren't treated fairly in that complaint, and it becomes the same. We don't throw that complaint with a new complaint about the same thing. We actually have data on how many people actually complain within that number. And that's relevant because when we talk about 2,500 and some people, the number 153 may seem small, but I'd ask you to consider that some of those are multiple people, multiple complaints being filed by the same group or the same person. So that's all I wanted to add.
No,
Sorry.
I appreciate that clarification, because as you know, we did have questions concerning that chart in trying to interpret, you know what I'm saying, what things mean and how things are classified. Chioma and then Shawnee.
Yes, some of my answers have been resolved. Thank you for that. But some new questions have come up, even as you were just speaking. Like, what does it mean to you that there are same people that are repeatedly filing complaints? Is it the same complaint? Is there a reason why they're filing multiple complaints? Just curious about that, if we have any understanding of that. But my main question for now, besides what was in the chat about like how do people learn about the complaints process, and what I've heard, just you can confirm if what I heard was correct, is that you're still revamping that, and there are many different pathways, but I mean, it would be great to streamline what those pathways are. Is it on a website? I mean, I see the website link in the chat, so I need to digest that. And the last thing I want to say is like, so what can community organizations, I'm with Advocates for Justice and Education, particularly, I mean, we're in the health side and the education side. My role is the health. I'm the Health Justice Project Coordinator. Like, so what can organizations do to support DDS in this?
Well, that is an excellent question, and I'm going to start with that, working backwards. What you can do is we can meet from a place of trust, right? And what I mean by that is, if you trust that I've been here since 2005 and that I absolutely care about the people that we support, I care about what we do, I care about our staff, and I care about being the best service delivery system in the country, right? That's what I care about. I'm not saying we're there, but that's what I care about. So as a community-based organization, if you can start with the premise that that's what we believe and that's our vision coming in, then everything else is you tell us what you need or what you believe is possible, and then we tell you whether we can do it within the confounds given to us by the actual CMS, Center for Medicaid Services, Center and the district, and with that, our fiscal budget. That's what we start with. Trust, and then you believing that we're not here to deny you anything that you deserve, right? We're not here to do that. We're not here to take anything from you that you deserve. I mean, that would be cruel and heartless. Like, let's start with that. So, what you guys need to do, if you can trust us, I'm not saying go in blindly and let us tell you everything. Forums like this, systems where you tell us that you don't agree, you tell us I heard it said Virginia does this some way, and then we tell you why we do it the way we do it, opposed to Virginia, right? Because I did hear that earlier, right? So trust us, keep us honest, treat this like a boxing match, right? A sparring partner for a boxer actually cares about that boxer because if that boxer wins, the sparring partner keeps the paycheck. The reality is, don't come soft at me, come hard at me. Give me your best complaints, concerns, ideas, and then let us work it out. And know that when we go up against the opponent, and the opponent in this case outside of our little sparring matches is the CMS, is the fiscal, the monies given to us by the legislature. Our fight is one from us to you. It just feels like we fight each other, but we've got bigger fights looming on the horizon. So, how you can help us is to let us know where you believe we could do better. We may not agree with that, but we will certainly hear it. Where you could help us at is when you hear about innovative and creative ideas that other jurisdictions and states are using that you feel like we could do. How you can help us is sometimes tell us we're doing okay when you believe we are, because we don't really hear that a lot either, I'll tell you, right? Most people that give us compliments don't receive services and are outside of our service delivery system because they see what we have as opposed to what other states have. And I'm going to shut up.
One last thing before moving to Shanta, can you please drop your contact in the chat, or if there is, the key point person about the design of the complaint process, just so we can follow up.
His number is on the screen.
That's Jose. Is that
Oh,
correct?
that is the best person.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's for
Yeah,
the complaint process. I'm the deputy director, and I
Right.
touch all of this, and that's why I feel passionate about it, because most of the complaints, as Alice already said, are always about team members who report to me.
Mhm.
Hello, I'm
Can I still
sorry,
have your
just joining.
information? And do you
I'm
mind
sorry.
putting your info in the chat?
Sure.
And you,
I was just getting ready.
and your formal deputy director of the quality improvement?
The Developmental Disabilities Administration.
Oh, of
And so-
DDA.
Yeah.
Got it.
So Tioma, we will be working as the Family Support Council with the Jose and whomever else that as we are going through things, ideals and recommendations for the complaint process. Shawnee?
Hi, is there a reason why the presentation didn't touch bases on the external complaint process?
Good.
Jacqueline or Alice?
I'm here. My name is Jose.
Jose, excuse me. I'm
I
so
just
sorry.
joined
Didn't
in.
see you. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Came from an appointment. An external complaints, what are you talking about? I'm sorry. Can you make?
The presentation only, I'm sorry, there's a lot of background noise. Let me let this bus pass. This presentation only touched bases about the internal process, which was the formal and informal, but there's an external complaint process as well. And watching this presentation, you wouldn't know that. So the question is there a reason why the external complaint process wasn't included in this presentation?
The external complaint process. Yeah, I need to be more clear about that. Because I don't know.
Okay, so
I mean,
the
we
external
handle.
complaint process, it
Mhm.
happens after you guys do the internal complaint process, and you have to ask for it. And there's a form, and you have to ask for the form from you
Oh,
guys.
I see, the external review after we
Yes.
do a resolution, and then comes, that is the stage 2 for formal complaints. The formal complaints, okay. And that's the right that we send the material after a formal complaint is closed, and we send a sheet and we send the information how to request an external review of the decision. So what we do is we have a person that is not related to DDS, and that person will review both sides of the complaint if the person is not happy with the decision that was resulted from the formal complaint. And anytime we close a formal complaint, that form is sent to the person. They have 14 days to send that form back to us and tell us that you would like an external reviewer to review that. That would be the intermediary. Doesn't work for us. He is going to be looking into. They're going to interview the person that complained. That he is going to interview us. He's going to request all the documentation relevant to the complaint. And
Right. So
we
the,
will
the
propose a
question is,
decision.
why wasn't it included in this presentation? In addition to that, where's the data from that external process? Is it included in that combination of chart data that was shown during the presentation, or is it
No,
excluded?
I think that was not included in there, but I'm happy to send you the presentation that discussed that, the stages of the formal complaint.
Okay, so it's an additional presentation that touches bases on the external complaint process.
Yeah, you can call it
Okay.
external review process. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
I can
thanks.
elaborate more and send it.
Or you could
send
send
it
it to the whole
link.
council. If you could send it to Rhonda or Craig, and then that way I think it would be most appropriate for them to disperse it, not just to us, but to the special needs community, as well as the clients who are receiving DDS services.
You go, Shawnee. Go.
Okay.
Yeah, we would be interested in that information. And then I think we had also requested, if you, understanding you can't get into the individual complaints, but if you could give us a general, like, percentage of which complaints are sustained, like are found to be legitimate, and what percentage are found to be not sustained, like where you don't agree with the person, we'd be interested in knowing that percentage. And then we also wanted to know, were there claims of retaliation? And if there were, how were those resolved? Without getting into the individual complaints, of course, because of privacy, but we were wondering if you could give us a assessment of that, maybe in a future meeting.
In the future
I
meeting,
have a
no problem.
question too. Would they also be able to give us a breakdown? I don't know if I saw it in the previous presentation, but a breakdown on like what are the complaints for? If they are like for change in service coordinator,
Yeah.
violent acts or abuse against a member, a DDS client or something like that, or lost wages or something of that particular would be great to see also too in those numbers, because that number, those numbers seem kind of uneven, but I would love to see what they how they're broken down on the complaint process.
Yeah, when we have incidents or complaints about abuse, neglect, or let's say exploitation, and some other ones that need to be resolved right away or investigated right away, we enter as an incident report. So that is a different process. And that is we take the complaint, but we enter an incident report within 72 hours. We're going to send an investigator, and staff need to be separated from the person, from the provider side. That happens. But that I manage those complaints, and we enter the incident, and that is a different process. When we see that there is an abuse, a neglect, something like that. And in terms of retaliation, Most of the time when people call us to complain about the provider, and we refer first, where we ask them if they complain to the provider. Each provider must have a formal complaint process, and it's part of the regulations. And if they don't, of course, we're going to send a QRU, a personal QRS that we call, to train them on formal complaint process from the provider. The provider must have a resolution, must have ways for the person to complain, and they have to give a written resolution. If the person feel like by complaining with the provider who give the service directly to the person, prompt to retaliate it, then they can use directly the formal complaint to complain about that provider. They can, there is one of the questions in there, when you complain to the provider, we can request the resolution, the written resolution from the provider. And if they say that I fear retaliation, they can say it in that too. It's part of the formal complaint process. Sometimes they just want to complain to us directly, and we direct them to the provider resolve the problem right away, and that's the end of the complaint. We have at least sometimes people that fear to retaliate it, they can enter an anonymous complaint. We recommend, and I think maybe Jacqueline spoke about this. I'm sorry I was not able to attend the meeting, but we highly recommend that if somebody's going to send us an anonymous complaint, give us as many details you can, so we don't have to have the need to calling the person back to get more information or not. We take that seriously. We recently received an anonymous complaint. We did an investigation. We sent 3 people actually to 3 different locations, and that resulted in some of the complaints or reports were substantiated. So don't think that because they're called anonymous, we're not going to act, right? And
All right.
the formal complaints, and I can put it in the chat, everything about the external reviewers are part of the formal complaint package that we also sent. The human rights, the formal complaint, how to do external, and I'm happy to elaborate more next time you guys meet.
Thank you, Jose. We definitely will be having further conversation with you and your team. We do thank Jacqueline and Alice for the presentation, inclusive of what's already been said, just to also consider the breakdown of what all of these types of complaints, the appeal process, all of those things are things that the Family Support Council would also like to hear for those people getting services from DDS. We do have to move on. Craig, are you ready to do so?
Sure, sure.
Thank you again. And Winslow has put some information in the chat as well. Others have as well. Thank you, Winslow, for being here as well to enlighten us on some of the information concerning the complaint process. Craig, I give the microphone to you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So we, as I mentioned before, we received a policy from the police department related to interactions with people with disabilities. So, and I've already gone through it and put some comments, but is there a way we can put it up on the screen? Should I share my screen? How would we do it?
I can pull that up if you'd like.
Sure. Do you have the one where I put the comments?
I do.
Super. Thank you. So this is a very comprehensive policy. I actually was quite pleased with it. It can be improved in some ways, I believe, and I would encourage everyone to take a look at it. But what this does is it establishes special procedures for interactions with people with disabilities, which is a best practice. You know, we want to see police departments training their personnel, their police officers, their dispatch, all their people, all their personnel in interacting with people with disabilities, being able to identify disabilities and providing accommodations as part of the interaction to the extent possible. So the first thing I'd mention, though, one comment, an overarching comment I'd have regarding all of this general order is that it treats physical disabilities as different than mental impairments. It calls them physical disabilities and mental impairments. Really, the ADA does not recognize that difference. You have physical and mental impairments, and if they impact a substantial life system, like your breathing, your thinking, or something like that, your ability to walk, your mobility, that's a disability. So you have physical and mental disabilities. So one thing is I wanted to address the idea that mental impairments are somehow lesser than or different than physical disabilities. So one thing I did here was I did go through and ask them to call them both physical and mental disabilities. Now we'll see what they say about that, but that was one overarching comment. Then if we could scroll down. So what this essentially does is it's the police department's effort to apply Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which apply to local governments, police departments, things like that. They're required by law to take action to accommodate people with disabilities. And I'll just tell you a general overview of this area is that this is an area where a lot of local governments didn't do that much for a long time, particularly in the mental health area or mental disability area or neurodivergent area. So it's great to see our local police department having a policy like this, taking action here. So that's one thing we definitely should be letting them know, that we're pleased to see this. Obviously, we want to be able to provide input, and we're glad they're showing it to us. So keep going down.
Craig, if
Please.
I could just interject here.
Yes.
So I think one of the things that you and I have had discussions with them about is being able to clarify between those with mental disabilities and those with IDD, right? So I hear that they have submitted to us those with physical and mental, but not all of our community fit into physical or mental disability. So making sure that they are clear about what a disability community entails, which is what we do for families of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Absolutely. So this policy does apply to intellectual and developmental disabilities. They're largely classified as mental disabilities, which an intellectual disability is a mental disability. Some developmental disabilities are both, or are sometimes classified in between. But they do have a definition in here. We can go through it, but it does include at the end. It would include. Don't go right now, I would say. We should go through it. It's only 14 pages and we'll go quick. We'll get to that definition, but we could, it's a good point, Rhonda, that, the ADA only says physical or mental impairment. Sometimes we've had trouble having that viewed broadly to apply to IDD, and, it might be useful to include that right up front, that this includes all forms of intellectual and developmental disabilities, even if they may not fit neatly into the category of physical or mental. We could definitely add that. So that'll be another comment we make then. So keep going down. Oh, pardon me. So right here. So what this basically says is that absent an emergency, where the police are always going to reserve the right in an emergency, a life safety issue, to be able to respond immediately, which means sometimes they're going to have to secure the scene. They're going to have to protect themselves when there's deadly force used or any sort of force. And I've never seen a policy that doesn't exempt that. So I don't think we should ask that they exempt that. But the point is that absent an emergency, this applies to every interaction between the police and people with disabilities. So that is a good thing. And it also indicates that that this applies right away. When they suspect that there's a disability, they are supposed to put this into effect. So keep going down. So the first part of this policy includes that typically if someone needs a wheelchair, they're going to get a wheelchair. If someone needs special equipment like a service dog or something like that, they may get that, or they'll make sure that they take that service animal or that wheelchair and put them in a safe place and transport the person appropriately. It talks about sometimes they have to arrest people. And so I made sure to put in there that sensory disabilities should be considered, but they had a number of other disabilities included. It talks about, I thought most of this was very good. It was, protecting service animals, transporting equipment that's required. So I was glad to see that. Keep going down. It had a very long section focused on people who are deaf or hard of hearing, what they refer to as hearing impairments, and ways to communicate. I thought that was a very well done part. Notably though, they didn't have any for people who were blind or low vision. So I thought, that's interesting. They have a very extensive focus on hearing, but no focus really on blind or low vision. No specific focus on neurodivergence, which is really intellectual and developmental disability. I thought that one feedback that we should give them, which I didn't put in here because it was a broader one that I think it's not just an edit. I think they need to add a section, but on neurodivergence. I see Rhonda agrees.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I will
That's what
tell
I
you.
was saying at the beginning is that the
I'm
way
sorry.
in which they address the community based on mental health disability and someone neurodiverse or intellectual disability is two different. As we've had communication with them, they address them differently, but it's not written that way. You know what I'm
You're
saying?
right.
So
I see what your point is. Yes, I agree. We should definitely make that feedback that they don't have a specialized section on IDD, which we think would be useful to have. Like, for example, I mentioned in here, they don't even address the fact that some of these individuals may not have capacity. They may not be able to form intent to commit a crime. They may not be able, it's not just that they may have trouble speaking because of their autism or because of some other related disability. It may be that they don't understand, because of an intellectual disability, and that they need to bring in well, keep going down. I'll show you the example. Keep going down.
I
But
see
this
hands
is
are
great.
raised, so if you can put your question in the chat because time is ticking,
Yes.
we'd really appreciate it. Jack.
That's why I'm going a little quick. So I
Tony.
apologize.
Mhm.
I apologize for that, but I just want to at least to go through it and then we can have a conversation. So keep going down. I thought the section on deaf and right there, deaf and hard of hearing was excellent though. I did add here, they said that if you're going to have an interpreter, it shouldn't be a family member, and I guess they're concerned about conflicts of interest where maybe it's an abusive situation involving a family member or the crime may involve a family member. But assuming there's not a conflict, I would think that you should leave that to the individual. They may be very comfortable having a family member be their interpreter. They may expect that. That may be the common way that they do things. And to just take that away from them and say, well, it can't be these, I didn't agree with that. I thought
Yeah,
that was
I
a
think
problem.
that would be an issue for you and I based on our children.
Yes.
Our children aren't deaf or hard. Well, my daughter's hard of hearing, but she's an intellectual disability. So they might think it's a conflict for us to speak.
Yes.
Their
And they
behalf.
should.
So there has to be something done there, Craig, but we'll move on. But you
Okay,
can
keep going down. Keep going down. Okay. So they have a section on mental impairments. I feel like mental disabilities is a better expression of that, and frankly, that's what the ADA requires. But we can discuss that, or maybe it could be both mental disabilities and impairments. They do include intellectual and psychological disorders and developmental here, but they don't have a special section for it. So this would be all sorts of mental disabilities, which could include injury to the brain. It could include dementia. It could include a lot of things, so it doesn't necessarily, it could include schizophrenia, it doesn't, which it should include all these things, but they probably do need to have one focused on children in particular, but people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
most
Did
definitely.
someone say something?
We're trying to leave, are
Okay.
you ready for questions? Because there was.
Oh, so keep going down a little bit more.
Mhm. Yeah, because Tamisha and Jacqueline, I believe is, and then someone else, I think may have put their hand up as well. So we'll get.
I added a section which I think is important, that if someone doesn't follow, it says here that maybe someone with a disability won't follow your instructions, which is right. They included, and then maybe they'll be
Yeah.
making noise or stimming or something like that. And that's not indicative of a lack of respect or a lack of following orders. But I also wanted to add that, you know, sometimes that means they don't have intent. So if they don't follow your orders, you don't have a right to arrest them for that if it's clear that they don't understand. Like, you may still have to secure the situation, but so I added a little bit there. Keep going down. I'm sorry for going so fast. I just want to get to the questions. Most of this is, and I encourage everyone to read it. We don't have to turn these in right now. You could send emails and we'll include your comments. I thought that they had some really good ideas about interviewing individuals with mental disabilities. But they seem not to have any mention of legal guardians or things like that. So I included that. Also, they said this one thing that I didn't understand. They said members shall consult with an official if the subject appears to present signs and symptoms of a severe mental impairment. I felt like that's very subjective. I feel like if the person has IDD, they should be consulting with an official. They shouldn't, like, they're not really qualified to determine how severe the disability is. And it's better to err on the side of caution, I would say. And keep going down, please. Let me just see if there was anything else. I wanted to show you that they do have these definitions. Keep going down. I changed one of them. They used MR, which I was surprised they had that term. So took that out, put intellectual disability, added autism spectrum disorder. We may want to add a few more, you know, just to make sure that it's broad. Probably should say, I forgot to put developmental. I apologize.
Right,
It should say intellectual and developmental
disabilities.
autism spectrum disorder. And so we're definitely gonna correct that because they shouldn't have the R word in there. And so we'll provide that guidance. But anyway, all in all, it was a pretty good policy, I would say. But it's best regarding hearing and other disabilities, it's a little too general. So we need to encourage them to add a special section.
Yes,
similar to what Coral Gables did. We gave them the Coral Gables one, which was a whole standard operating procedure related to people with autism and neurodivergence and intellectual and developmental disabilities. That would be nice if they could incorporate some of that. But all in all, it was a great initial effort. And it's good they're doing this. We should encourage it. And I'm glad that they're engaging with us. So I'll open it up for comments. And I'm sorry for going so quick through it. You may not have comments today, but you know, we'll keep this open for the rest of the week or into early. How long do we have, Catherine, to give them the comments?
They would like to have the comments back by the 30th, September 30th.
Okay, so we'll keep it open to the 30th itself. If you could get it to the 20, if you could get us any thoughts by email by the 29th, we'll make sure to send this to everyone with my edits. Just you could send proposed
They
edits.
have it, Craig. They
You
have
already
it.
have it. You could send bullet points. You could just email us and we'll include the edits. We'll make sure to do that for you. The more feedback, the better. So with that, Rhonda,
Yes.
I turn it back to you and to the committee.
Sure. Tamisha, I believe you had a comment question. You have the floor.
I'm sorry, I have the hiccups at the moment. I'm trying to drink some water, so somebody can go next. Sorry.
Sure. I'll come back around if that works for you. I thought Jacqueline had her hand up, which was one of our presenters, but I wasn't sure if you had a question or comment about what we were talking, what Craig was discussing. Did you?
Yes, I am happy to email comments, but I just wanted to quickly over the deaf and hard of hearing section. I wear bilateral hearing aids. I'm deaf. I went to Gallaudet. Two things I wanted to point out is I do think the hearing impairment needs to be like standardized, like that word as mental disability, like mental impairment. I think impairment is a dated word, and maybe best to also change to maybe hearing loss or deaf and hard of hearing people.
Agree with you.
Kind
Okay.
of goes into the
Absolutely.
autism when we use the word impairment, obviously. Second is have been involved in conversations where people who do not speak prefer to be handcuffed from the front. That way they can have a little bit of room to sign with an interpreter instead of the back where they have a little bit less movement if they need to be handcuffed. So I have heard that it's best practice to go from the front where they can actually have a little bit more movement to communicate. So thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. And hopefully you can get a copy. I don't know if she put this into the chat or not, but we definitely, Jacqueline, if you could please take your eyes over the hearing, well, like you said, should be hearing loss, not
We'll
or
put,
hard,
yeah.
deaf and hard of hearing, not hearing impairment. I get you there. So we'd love to have you check that out if you don't mind, Jacqueline.
Thank
Yeah,
you
we'll
for having me
make
as
sure,
well.
Jacqueline, I mean, you can send us what since you're an expert in the area, you could edit it and we'll just include it. You're our subject matter expert, but definitely, and I'm sorry about that. It should at least be hearing disability or deaf and hard of hearing. It should not be hearing impairment.
Yeah.
And in fact, we'll give that general request. Maybe keep impairment right at the beginning because that's in the ADA, but give that definition, but then define it as disability and not use impairment again.
Right. It's common.
And
Thank you
we
so
can,
much.
since DDS will also be providing comments, we could also include Jacqueline's comments with the DDS comments.
Thank you.
All right. And Tamisha, have you been relieved of the hiccups? Let's see.
Hi, this is Michelle Hawkins. I have
Sure, go ahead, Michelle.
I'm sorry, I've been in and out because I had some intake come in.
No problem.
Are there going to be training for the police department about the disabilities?
They're supposed to be, and that will be one of our comments that we would like an annual training on this policy, and we would like to attend at least the first one,
Yes.
so that we can see how they're doing the training.
Right,
Yeah, we did definitely make our presence available to them to be a part of the trainings, to give some training, any of those things and all of those things. So, because they spoke about how they have others from the mental health, those with mental disabilities come in for certain portions of their training. So we were like, yes, we would definitely want to be a part of your training as it relates to intellectual and developmental disabilities. So thank you, Michelle.
Okay.
For your question.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'm sorry. I'm back. I got kicked out for some reason.
We apologize, everyone. It's 5 minutes over, but I'm glad that you're all staying around. So go right ahead, Tamisha.
Okay, so one of my comments was in reference to like I have a child with an intellectual disability, and I learned from explaining that to someone at the DMV that I can get that put on his ID. And so it is on the back of his ID, and on the front it lists restrictions, as if like, somebody had a provisional license. So on the front it lists restrictions, and on the back it says like ID and autism on the back. However, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Let me let you finish your question, but go ahead.
However, I had a conversation with an outreach director for, I think it's 3rd district, and he explained to me that was very small and he had no clue about it, and was asking if something could be like more visual on the ID to kind of prove that disability. And, naturally, I would love for it to display, because I want my son to be identified, or any child to be identified without having some type of, unrepairable incident with the police. And so, but I also come across many youth who are explaining that they don't really want it on display. And so I explained to the officer that if the front says restriction, it is then the officer's duty to check the restriction on the back of the ID and know what those restrictions are. And he continued to explain to me that that is not what they're looking for. You know, that is they're originally looking for it to say, I don't know, that they are not naturally going to look at that because it's very small. So that is one of the many conversations that I've had with law enforcement in itself, and just making sure that they're trained to know about those restrictions. And so if I could encourage all parents to get that, but then make sure that all of our MPD are aware that that restriction is an option.
Yeah, one of the things that Winslow just put in the chat about Maryland kind of addressing, I haven't had a chance to read it, but addressing what you're saying to some degree, Tamisha, so check the chat. But my comment to what you're saying is where myself and I believe Craig and some others is that, yes, they may have an ID that says restricted, or it says what those disabilities on their back, but what are you doing, MPD, to get the card, to get the ID? Because my daughter's not going to hand it to you. So that's where we're working from that part. Okay, even if she has the ID on her and you ask her to give it to you, and she doesn't, how do you guys handle that situation, right? So if you can't get to the card to see that it says restricted or it has the disabilities on the back, you know, what you do there, right? So we've had some conversation with them about that, and we welcome, you know what I'm saying, any additional ideas or comments. And like I said, I have not had a chance to read what Winslow put in the chat, but something referring to law creates a hidden disability designation for Maryland ID. So check that out. But the other thing, pardon me.
What Maryland did was their ID has a butterfly on it. And if a police officer sees the butterfly, they should automatically then assume that the person has given the consent to disclose that they have a disability, and therefore the officer should know to proceed with that person with a skill set that they've been trained, whatever that may be, on how they should proceed with that person. But it's fully, it's not a requirement for those who don't want to disclose. It wouldn't be a requirement, but it's just something to read if people want to take a look at it for what Maryland has done on this issue.
Thank you. Thank you, Winslow. But to the other point is trying to get to the card, right? I mean, trying to get to the ID, because again, those individuals who are not able to follow the command, or if they are, you know what I'm saying, trying to learn, train the officer to know how to communicate with someone to offer up their ID. You see what I'm saying? They're still trying to get to the ID, right? And what that looks like and what training's involved to try to even get the ID, to see restricted, to see the butterfly, to see the back of it, whatever it is, getting to the ID is still in question.
Understood. And again, another example of when MPD does have the information, it's not immediately acted upon when there's a specific incident. An example is I had I don't know if I can give this example. I can just say I had jury duty once, and I learned that they have the protocols for mental health situations. And when they're in the middle of a mental health situation, the officers aren't always immediately responding to that. And so I guess I would just want to help create ways to make sure that they are immediately following the protocol, because even when it's immediately announced that this person is having a mental break, it's always not, or some type of have some type of cognitive disability or whatever, they're not always immediately responsive to that. So I would want to sit with them or figure out ways so that it can become less confrontational, so that it can be initiated, or if once it's initiated, that they definitely follow those steps, you know, because it's too many situations out here regularly where there aren't people responding in a way that they know that they're supposed to respond, and it overstimulates the person that's involved anyway.
And
it escalates. Yeah.
We will definitely give that feedback. And just
thank you.
Yeah.
definitely.
We have heard that
Rhonda?
before.
Can I say one more thing, Rhonda,
Sure.
before we conclude? I just wanted everyone to know we've been advocating that they update their disability policy for 2 years, and this is a big win for us as a group. So that they're doing it and they sent it to us and they're taking our feedback, and hopefully they've said that they're going to have us be part of their training. So, and anyone who's interested in that, please let us know, because we'd love you to be part of this. And so I just, I'm glad though that they're going to be taking our feedback. This is a really good start. They're using some terminology that's dated. We'll correct that. They need to have some more specific sections. We'll provide that feedback. But this is very good. This is a very good step.
Right, well, thank you so much. If anyone has any questions or comments concerning our first presenters and the complaint process, please share those with us. My information, I will put in the chat. And if you could, Craig, you want to get in touch with me directly or Craig, I'm putting my contact information and Craig will do so as well. Please let us know. We will be speaking, and hopefully we can maybe have executive committee meeting with the Jose and his staff concerning today's presentation. Would be great, but we will follow through, and we definitely want your questions, comments, and ideals about how to make support these systems so they better support our people with disabilities.
I had a quick comment, Rhonda.
Sure.
When my son has autism, he has odd behaviors. He's big and tall. So when we're out in the community, I have a band that he wears on his wrist. So I think in the plan, they need to look for like ID bracelets or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something else to consider, right? There's lots of different things, even if it's on our loved ones' belt loops, right? But again, getting to the risks, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying this from the perspective that we have to give them really good ideals, you know what I'm saying, of how they train their officers to obtain or notice or observe, you know what I'm saying? All of these different things so that they can proceed appropriately to address the issue and realize that, yes, there are crisis situations for those with mental disabilities, but someone that may be eloping their home and maybe taking something from the corner store because that's a pattern that they have with their parents every Friday or whatever is two different circumstances, and how they address that person to concerning the illegal act they may have done, but understanding where that person's coming from. So thank you so much, Michelle, for bringing to that comment to, as well as other ways that our loved ones could be identified, that they are a person with disability and how the officer should address them. All right, thank you so much. Wonderful meeting. I appreciate all the comments and questions. October 23rd, I think it is. We have Melissa Bird from DC Healthcare Finance. She'll be talking about Medicaid on that day, and that is at 1 o'clock again. And yes, we are looking at ways to change our time around some more so that others can participate. So we are looking into doing some maybe evening or a later afternoon to make sure we can get all our members and community attending. So you all have a great day. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.